Well, we made it through another week. Here we are at the end of our discussion of people of the book, and my particular emphasis this week was Kadivar. Let's start with a reading from the Quran. It's 262. Truly, those who believe, and those who are Jews, and the Christians, and the Sabines, whosoever believes in God and the last day, and works righteousness, shall have their reward with the Lord. No fear shall come upon them, nor shall they grieve. It's been an interesting week researching this contemporary Muslim scholar and watching as the class wove threads together, understanding Rahman and Talbi and Kadivar. I think in general, we all had a good understanding of Kadivar's 2001 essay titled Freedom of Religion and Belief in Islam. So now it looks like I have some weaving of my own to do, trying to bring together the discussion on Kadivar and make some conclusions about it. I want to start by stating my position that studying concepts and analyzing questions from outside of my faith tradition has only served to really strengthen my beliefs. That's what's happened to me this entire year so far at LTSP. Kadivar probably didn't intend this as a purpose of his essay, but it certainly has raised some important questions about Christianity and about interfaith interaction. I have three main topics that I've kind of pulled together from all of our discussions, and it's three C's: constitution, competition, and compulsion. I want to start out with the Constitution. A lot of people were discussing how this concept of freedom of religion developed and how it fits particularly in U.S. Context. Claire C. questioned whether or not the freedom of religion has any meaning inside a religion like Islam or Christianity for that matter. And she suggested that to understand freedom, we have to take a look at the state side of that separation, that wall between church and state. Lauren called us out to consider Kadivar's expansive notion of this freedom, especially as it applies to us in America. I think people would be a little surprised at the extension of freedom of religion beyond constitutional protections like in the Establishment Clause or the Freedom of Free Exercise Clause, because Kadivar really wants to include the idea that we should be free to invite people to our religion, to preach and propagate our religion, to build faith spaces for our religion, and to finally to leave and renounce our religion. I think he believes strongly in all of those. Many folks pointed out the relevance of this discussion to us today, and in light of the good faith exception legislation that's been passed in a couple of states recently in reaction to the marriage equality decision, it's probably worth our thinking about it. And to circle back to Claire C. for a second, her discussion with Taliban soldiers and their wives makes her a real unique source for us in fact-checking what Kadivar says about tolerance and inside Islam. And I'd invite you to take a look at her post. Second C is competition. Special shout out to Claire J. This was the week of the Claires, I think. She devoted a whole post to the ideas in my original paper. I'm interested in the ideas of thinkers talking to each other across centuries. I didn't mean to suggest that Kadivar didn't know Rousseau or Paine or Jefferson. Rather that I'd like to see a conversation between them because they each in their own ways were reformers working in the same field. I really like Kadivar's line, "It's not the divine will for everyone to be of the same mind." I think that would fit very well into a conversation that they might have. Claire also questioned the idea of coming to a religion based on rational choice. I think the words she quoted were to explore for themselves and choose their beliefs. And she detailed what she said were some seemingly silly beliefs that we Christians hold pretty dear. This, I think, was in a larger context of Kadivar explaining that God wouldn't have given us independent reasoning if he wouldn't have wanted us to make some choices. He'd simply made us all Presbyterians, as one classmate pointed out. Sharon pointed out that God seems to appear and speak to people in different ways in different times and different places, and I think we need to honor that. Finally, though, brings up the idea of compulsion. And there were lots of people who were making comments about compulsion this week. Richard remarked on Kadivar's idea that a forced faith is no faith at all, and that the idea of John Stuart Mill's marketplace of ideas analysis also applies to religion. Truth will emerge out of conflict rather than everybody falling in line and agreeing. Marcia mentioned that Kadivar seems to start from a thou shalt not position and move towards more tolerance. And to come full circle, Margaret asked us to consider evangelism in light of this compulsion discussion. What does the Quran mean in 16:125 when it says, invite all to the way of the Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways that are best and most gracious, for God knows best who have strayed from his path and who receive guidance. Thanks for thinking with me this week and with Kadivar this week about the people of the book.